Hi, I'm Scott Dick. Welcome to YourTown TV. My guest this segment is Mark Bruno, president of the Monterey County Association of Realtors. Mark, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me back. I'm surprised you actually asked me back for a second segment, Kevin. Or Kevin, Scott. I call you Kevin too, that's great.
That's all right, that's all right. We both know him.
Yeah.
Earlier on, I've had Josh Metz from the FORA Reuse Authority, the Fort Ord Reuse Authority on, and we talked a little bit, just a bit about housing affordability. And I know before you and I had talked, we had mentioned one of the big challenges of real estate is just the lack of inventory as it stands now. There's some development going on at the old Fort Ord, but as far as regular development, anything happening on the peninsula?
No, I think Fort Ord's pretty much it right now that I know about. There's some discussion about Rancho Cañada, that development down there, but now traffic's an issue with that, last I heard.
Right.
So who knows where that'll end up. I think that before you even talk about Monterey County, you have to talk about the state. And some of the figures the California Association of Realtors is throwing around is, for the last 10 years, we've been 100,000 homes short across the state to keep up with the population growth. So if you do some real simple math, 100,000 homes
a year
times 10 years, that's 1 million homes we're short in the state of California. You're not going to be able to make that up, especially now that the market's as high as it is. So if you don't have the houses when the market's low, and nobody's going to want to build any houses when they can't make any money on them.
Right.
So if you don't have that inventory yet, the population continues to grow the way it is. Now developers going, hey, the prices are high enough, we could build homes. Nobody's going to be able to afford them. So it just compounds the problem in, my little view of the world. And I think Monterey is kind of a little mini version of that. You look at the whole county, I think it's the same thing. We don't have enough housing here in the peninsula side for people that come here and work every day. And Salinas doesn't have enough housing. You don't have enough housing down in the South County, the Valley. So somebody needs to kind of get some housing going. I think there is some housing being done down in Soledad in that area. I don't do any business down that way, so I don't keep up with it maybe as much as I should. But I think there is some building there, but it's definitely not enough to take care of the problem that we have.
So it's basically a traditional supply and demand economic issue that's irrefutable.
Yeah, and I think it's beyond that. I think it's a political issue now. I don't think anybody wants to see their hometown overrun with development, especially along the coastal parts of the state. And I remember as a little kid that being an issue, and different factors being used to kind of limit growth.
Right.
So at some point, I think we have the same people arguing that we don't want growth, but they're also arguing that we need more affordable housing. At some point, I think you said it best before, we need to call these people out and say, look, you can't have both. We either need to be able to develop some housing so that we can have some affordable housing, which means we need water and resources to build and to have resources for these people.
Let me see if I get this right. So if you have homes at different purchase price or economic levels, and they're full because we have little inventory, either if you own or you rent. So somebody owns those rental homes. So you only have so much inventory. So if you build a new home, from my understanding of this, what happens is, let's say, and we've heard the argument against people building market rate homes.
Sure.
I've heard them being called greedy developers.
Yep.
Here's the problem or the situation. You build a market rate home. The family that's been in a starter home now has had their second child or their third child, or their kids move back home with them, and they have the economic capacity to purchase a market rate home. They move up. Yep. That frees up a home.
That's right.
That's got a market. That's got a maybe first-time buyer, or if it's a medium price home, that first-time buyer moves up, and then the person that's been living in an apartment who's ready to have kids and move up moves up.
Yep.
And so I don't think that people make that link between this market rate home and how everybody comes up.
Everybody comes up. Yeah.
And so it's one thing, I think, to build affordable housing and call that what it is, affordable housing. It's going to help if you build 15 units, it's going to help 15 families.
Well, and there's an argument against that too. A lot of these families qualify for affordable housing when they buy it, but 5 years down the road, They could have a great job change and they've got all kinds of money, yet they have this very inexpensive house that they're occupying that should be used for somebody who qualifies now for low income housing. And these guys should be moving up into something out of that bracket.
I think people don't understand also the difference between inclusionary housing, workforce housing. Everyone has a tendency to lump it under
It's all
affordable housing.
affordable housing.
And really, if you build market rate homes at a certain level, you're creating affordable housing.
That's right.
So I think that what I know about the Monterey County Association of Realtors and the California Association of Realtors, that's a big issue, housing affordability.
And for the state right now.
Well, of course, for the state, because the state can't house the people they have. And we see that directly at the level of homelessness in cities. I remember 20 years ago, I was stationed at DLI at the time, where they had, during the big tech boom, they had people making $85,000 living in their cars because they couldn't. Now that's $85,000 a year, which today, if people had that money and didn't live on the coast, they'd have a nice life. And so I think the roadblocks to building is so fraught with emotion that, I mean, we don't have to look at it purely economical because of this fabulous coastline that we're trying to take care of. But there's a second part where, don't come complaining to me because rents are high or homes are out of sight, because you're also against building.
That's right. That's right.
So we talked about affordable housing a little bit, and I didn't mean to steal your
No,
thunder,
I mean, you obviously have spent a lot of time on this issue, and I know you're passionate about it, so it's good to have you talk about it.
So it's one of the challenges of being in professional real estate is we talked a little before about ethics and the ethical challenges, and not so much that in your team or who you work with, but from outside and how those are addressed. And so what does, for example, organized real estate, like the Monterey County Association, which is a bigger part of a trade organization, just in generic terms, those ethical issues, how are those addressed?
Well, I think the biggest issue we have in general with ethical issues is most agents don't want to make a big deal out of an ethics problem. They try to work it out with the other agent. And the problem with that is if the other agent even recognizes they're doing something wrong, they're probably going to apologize, say, oh, that's great, and I'm really sorry, and it won't happen again. The reality is the chance of those two agents coming together and working on another deal together to see if that's true or not are, slim to none. And the pattern of what that agent is doing, the one who's doing something unethical or not doing, is probably not going to change. And I know I've encountered it. And then when you talk to other agents, without mentioning a name, you say, hey, yeah, this happened to me on a deal. And they'll say, oh, were you working with so-and-so? And they hit it right on the head. So I think what has to happen is that culture needs to change. And I don't know when it changed in the past. Maybe when the markets get really good, you just overlook a lot of that stuff and you just go and keep your head down and go on to the next deal and let that one go and not get tied up in the process of bringing somebody up in front of the ethics committee or whatever. So I think that as agents, we would need to change the way we think. And when somebody is doing something that's blatantly wrong, we need to actually make the claim. And then we need to follow through with a hearing and make them face the music on what they're doing. Otherwise, people aren't going to change. And the reality is there are agents out there that probably should not have a license. And one of the benefits of working with Jeff Davey being our formal real estate commissioner, he knows where the lines are crossed. And, and he's actually pretty good about making the phone calls and at least getting the broker on the other end notified that they've got an agent with a problem. But in general, I don't know how many people are bringing things up in front of the board. I know we've had an increase lately, which would make sense because there's less inventory. There's a lot more competition to get listings and a lot more competition to get buyers.
Right.
So I could see how we would have more ethics type hearings going on right now. Whether people are found guilty or not, I don't know.
Well, I think also, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I think also it's a matter of training. As we train people, like, look, let us have this process. Well, we'll sort it out.
So training's one thing. I mean, I've sat through a bunch of ethics training. The problem is until you're out there and confronted with the issue, you really don't know how to navigate through it. So Keller Williams has a mentor-mentee program. And I think for me, that was the most valuable thing I had. Not that it was with Keller Williams, but being able to sit with my mom and shadow her for a year and, be in the car when she's on the phone talking to her clients with them on speakerphone and listening to what they're saying and then how she would respond to them, and listening to other agents and how she would work together with other agents gave me an opportunity to see into that side of the industry that I don't think you can teach in a class. You don't have enough time, and people don't have enough attention span to absorb that. So I almost think you need to have some sort of a mentor program for newer agents coming in. And like I said, Keller Williams recognizes that. They have a pretty cool program, and it's something they do nationally.
Well, what I meant by the training is that the spike in ethical violation claims could be a result of training. For more people who've trained on this is what the ethical issue is, then they go, oh, I see. It sounds really simple if you forget to do something or don't do something or say something that you shouldn't say.
Yeah. Most of the violations that I've seen are pretty blatant. These aren't like oops. These are I mean, because I don't think any agent is going to turn somebody in for an ethics violation for an oops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got to be something pretty blatant, and
where you've considered the idea that
somebody maybe has considered the consequences already and went ahead and went down that road anyway because there was some sort of personal gain involved in it, and
that's where you really get into trouble. And that's
right.
serious, because
that's right.
In that personal gain part, then you've violated your fiduciary status.
You got it.
Then you're in trouble with the state, not just the local
That's
realtors.
Right. That's right.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that's where we see where people really get in trouble, and you read about it in the paper eventually. Eventually that stuff comes out, but those are the real issues. I mean, some of the little stuff, I mean, we kind of fight back and forth, and I'm guessing that in most cases, and it'd be fun to ask actually Kevin this because I don't pay attention, but it'd be fun to see out of all the claims that come through, how many of them are actually, guilty, not guilty, or if they're both kind of a little bit in the gray area, because it's always two parties involved.
Sure.
So it'd be interesting to see statistics on that.
Well, the good thing about ethics, most ethic rules, is they're pretty clear.
Yep.
And so if you're supposed to do something and you don't, going through the process, if the person is a mature adult, they won't forget to do that again. Especially if they've sat and had to answer to people like, how did you forget that? Or if they did something they shouldn't have done, then calling out people, because ethics is a slippery slope. It's not almost. It is actually the moral courage to do something that's not popular.
That's right.
Also to not do something that's popular. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. And so that's the kind of training where where you give examples over and over again, and it's still not the same as going out there on the street and seeing it occur and say, well, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get that. I think that's really a distinction between your average real estate agent, and I don't mean to, in a pejorative way towards ethical real estate agents, but realtors and the brand.
Well, and we probably should state the obvious. I mean, guys, we're talking 99% of agents out there that are realtors, I think, are ethical.
Sure.
But there's always that element, and I don't care whether it's real estate or attorneys or car salesmen, whatever it is. Well, it's funny how those three are all kind of bracketed together there and they have that reputation.
Exactly.
But, you've always got that certain percentage of them that maybe are not following the rules and are doing things the way they want to do them and therefore unethical.
Exactly. And I think what happens is that it damages the entire industry, and
there's no doubt about it.
Well,
look at how. I mean, I said it on the last segment, but look at how Hollywood portrays realtors. We're an easy target to. Was it 2.5 Men, with the mother that was the realtor?
I didn't watch that show.
Oh my God! It was anyway. I mean, it was hilarious how they presented her. She just cared nothing about getting the deal done, and I would laugh because it's a comedy.
Sure.
But the reality is, we all know who that agent is out there
in our community,
and the way she would dress, and all that stuff.
Sure.
That's kind of the typical real estate agent. So I don't know. To me, it was kind of funny.
I know that some of the challenges as an organization is to make sure that things like public policy as we say, it's a lot easier to help public policy than it is to fix it, to help create it versus fix it. And I know that members of the Monterey County Association of Realtors are very good about working to make the community better. I mean, they live here, they're small business entrepreneurs,
Sure.
they have an interest
Sure.
in making sure that public policymakers are not just out to...
Well, even more base than that, and you know, you look at real estate's a local thing. I mean, you read some of these big companies out there, and a lot of the internet companies are saying, well, no, it's a national thing, watch. The reality is, when it comes down to buying a house here locally, people are more comfortable buying a house with somebody who's involved in the community. They're volunteering. A lot of the clients that I have sold homes to in the past now volunteer with us at the AT&T golf tournament.
Oh,
or they
good.
volunteer with us at the concours. And we actually offer that. I mean, I'll send them an invitation because it always comes up when we're driving around looking at houses or whatever. So what a better way to get somebody who's moved here, it's their dream to retire in Pebble Beach or Carmel or Monterey or Pacific Grove, and what a better way to get them involved in the community. And in a lot of cases, these are fairly well-to-do people who can have a large impact
Sure.
on the community, you know, with their time and their knowledge and also financially. So it's great getting people involved, and for our whole team, you know, it's one of the things that we stress. You need to be involved. You need to be, you know, have something that you care about outside of real estate, and you need to give back.
So this
That's
really is
part of it.
This really is a personal business.
It certainly is a personal business. I mean, I look at it every time I meet somebody from outside the area. I have the coolest job in the world. I get to show them one of the best places on the planet to live. And then if they decide that this is where they want to be, I then get to help them find their home, which is a hugely personal thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then help try to inject them into the community in a way that they want to be, or in some cases they're good without that, but at least open those opportunities up to them and offer them to them.
It's hard to do that over the internet, isn't it?
It's really hard to do that. Yeah, on a website.
On a website.
Yeah.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, Mark, having you on YourTown TV. I think as we continue, I'm not sure what's going to happen in the next couple of years. We know that with the Fort Ord Reuse Authority possibly going away, and the development at Fort Ord, and you know, building homes, and it's just so much. Trying to take care of the people who live here, trying to make a living, trying to make sure it's a great place to vacation, a place to have recreation.
Yep.
Recreate is the word they use.
Yep.
It's all part of the, I don't want to call it a fight, but a struggle.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about water.
No.
It's amazing how we stayed away from that subject, or water bills right now, which, you know, mine just, I think, almost doubled. So
Yes, so we'll get to that. Don't worry. YourTown TV
I'm not sure I'm the guy that wants to be in the seat when you have that conversation in this community, but
I will. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate Mark,
All right.
President of the Monterey County Association of Realtors.
thank you, Scott.
This is YourTown. I'm Scott Dick, your host, and thanks for watching.